The music was still pulsing when most of the crowd had thinned out, leaving behind half-empty glasses and the fading echoes of laughter. Jamal stood near the coat rack, adjusting his jacket, watching others pile into rideshares and stumble into the street with champagne-fueled joy. He didn't drink, hadn't since his kids were born, and tonight wasn't about celebration for him. It was about keeping his job, picking up extra shifts when he could, and making sure he made it home in time to tuck his kids in. As he turned to leave, he noticed her, Lindsay Cross, his boss's boss, sitting alone on a bench near the curb, coat half off her shoulders, eyes glazed. No one else seemed to notice her. Or maybe they did and didn't care. She was clearly in no shape to get home on her own. Jamal hesitated for a moment. This wasn't his responsibility. But something tugged at him. He thought of his daughter and how he'd want someone to help her someday if she were ever vulnerable like this. So he walked over, crouched beside her, and asked softly, "Ma'am, you okay? Need a ride?" She squinted up at him, confused but relieved. I think so," she mumbled. Gently, he helped her to his car, an aging sedan with fast food wrappers in the back and car seats still buckled in. He started the engine and drove off into the cold night, saying nothing, just doing what felt right. The city lights blurred past the windows as Jamal drove steadily through the snow-dusted streets. The heater clicked softly, fighting off the chill that crept in through the cracked passenger window. Lindsay slumped in the seat beside him, head resting against the glass, lost in a drunken sleep. Jamal glanced at her briefly, then back to the road. He didn't know much about her, just that she was high up, made decisions that trickled down to people like him. She wore expensive shoes, spoke in clipped, corporate phrases, and barely looked his way at meetings. Still, tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight she was just a woman who needed help. As the car rolled to a stop at a red light, Jamal's mind wandered. He thought about the babysitter waiting with his kids, the bills he still needed to pay, and the quiet exhaustion of a life built on second jobs and skipped meals. But even in all that, there was pride. He was showing up, every single day, for his kids, for his work, for himself. Suddenly, from the passenger seat, Lindsay stirred. Her voice cracked the silence, soft and slurred, "Eli. I'm sorry." Her face twisted, a tear slipping down her cheek before she turned her head away and fell back asleep. Jamal's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. He didn't know who Eli was, but the pain in her voice was real. In that moment, he realized everyone, no matter how put together, carries something heavy. Jamal pulled up slowly to the townhouse, the driveway lined with carefully trimmed hedges and glimmering holiday lights. It was the kind of place that spoke of success and insulation from the chaos of the world, a far cry from the small apartment he shared with his kids. He shifted into park and turned off the engine, letting the quiet settle in. For a moment, he just sat there, glancing at Lindsay still asleep in the passenger seat, her makeup slightly smudged, hair falling from its neat updo. She looked human. Not the polished executive who ran meetings without blinking. Just a woman who had probably had too much to drink and too much on her mind. He tapped the steering wheel gently, then leaned over and said, "Hey. We're here." She stirred slowly, eyes fluttering open. Disoriented, she looked around, clutching her purse tighter. "What? Where?" she mumbled. "You passed out at the party." "I didn't want you getting in trouble, or worse," Jamal said calmly. "Figured I'd drive you home." She blinked at him, clearly trying to process. "You drove me?" Her voice was cautious, almost defensive. "Yeah," he nodded. "Didn't think leaving you on a bench was the right call." For a second, silence hung between them. Then she softened. "You didn't have to," she whispered. "Maybe not," Jamal said, opening her door gently. "But I'd want someone to do it for my daughter one day." That landed. She looked at him, really looked, maybe for the first time. The next morning, the warehouse buzzed with the usual noise, forklifts humming, boxes thudding, radios playing quietly in the background. Jamal was back in uniform, scanning inventory like any other day. He didn't expect anything to change. Last night wasn't about recognition, it was just about doing the right thing. But then, just before his break, a pair of polished heels clicked across the concrete floor. Heads turned. It was Lindsay. She never came down here. She looked different, tired, but focused. Her eyes found Jamal's, and she gave a small nod. "Can we talk?" she asked. They sat on a bench near the back exit, steam from his coffee rising in the cool air. She hesitated, then spoke. "I barely remember last night, but I know you didn't have to help me. And you did. You saw me at my worst. And you didn't use it against me. That means something." Jamal shrugged, a little uncomfortable with the attention. "I just did what I hoped someone would do for my kid. That's all." She was quiet for a moment. "You know, in all these meetings and reports, I don't think I ever stop to actually see the people who keep this place running. That's on me." Then she pulled a folder from her bag. "There's a leadership training program starting next quarter. I want you in it. Full support from me." Jamal stared, surprised. "Why me?" She smiled softly. "Because real leadership starts with character. And you already have that." 3 months later, the community center was buzzing with energy. Parents filled the fold-out chairs, kids ran back and forth in sequin costumes, and the stage lights flickered to life for the annual talent show. Jamal sat in the front row, his son beside him, holding a small science trophy proudly in his lap. Jamal's daughter was backstage, nerves and excitement bubbling in equal measure as she waited to perform her dance. Then, sliding quietly into the seat next to Jamal, was Lindsay. No business suit this time, just jeans, a sweater, and a warm smile. She brought a small bouquet of flowers and handed them to him. "For her, after she dances," she said. "Hope I'm not late." "You're just in time," Jamal replied, a smile tugging at his lips. The music started, and his daughter twirled onto the stage, graceful and confident. Jamal's eyes welled with pride, and he noticed Lindsay dabbing her eyes, too. They looked at each other and laughed quietly, like old friends sharing a secret. After the show, as the kids ran into their arms, Lindsay bent down to shake Jamal's son's hand. "You're gonna do big things, I can feel it," she said. Jamal looked around at the moment unfolding, his kids beaming, Lindsay chatting like family, and felt something shift. Not just his circumstances, but his entire circle. What started as an act of quiet kindness had grown into something bigger: respect, opportunity, connection. Sometimes, he thought, the smallest detours lead to the most important destinations.